My arms, my legs, each lies a bloody ruin. Ah, ah, ah,
There were two bosses in this list that were incredibly easy to pick, which one was the easiest and which one was the hardest. Romina is the defender of us achieving the final area, and in a game with so many crazy hard bosses, I found her quite underwhelming in the difficulty department. Even though I found her pretty early in the game and my Erdtree fragment level was on the low side, I still found her very simple to beat. It was the only boss in this list that took me less than 10 tries. Romina hits hard, as expected in a late game boss, but she does give you lots of time to heal due to her flying everywhere around the arena. And also some of her attacks are extremely telegraphed and easy to avoid, making her a very easy choice for the easiest boss in this game. I feel that from this entire list, this might be the boss that most people will disagree with its placement, but I have a few good reasons why I put him here. First of all, this was the final Remembrance I fought before the final boss, which means my Erdtree fragment level was pretty high when I found him. And most important than that, after a few deaths, I realized that this is one of those fights that kind of follow a script. He always starts the fight with the same attack, and he always transitions to the second phase at a certain stage of the fight. So as soon as I realized that I could simply ignore his first attack just by running behind him, it didn't take me long until I found a combination of attacks that would make me remove around 60% of his health right away without getting hit, which of course made the rest of the fight very accessible. I really hope they fix this, because I saw a lot of potential in this boss because he hits like a truck and has massive AoEs, but for now Mydra is a very simple boss to defeat. If you played Sekiro, this boss will definitely remind you of the Guardian Ape, because From Software decided to troll on us yet again. As soon as I killed it for the first time in just 2 or 3 tries, I thought, okay, easy boss, surely it's an optional mini-boss, and suddenly, boom, she comes back to life again and kills me in 5 seconds. Erdtree Avatar is an endurance battle, one of the longest fights in the game, which only makes it more easy for you to mess up and die. Some other things that I also found tough to deal with this fight is the roots attack she does every time she is far away from you. I always found it hard to see when the second one was coming, and I also think that in this fight my weapon was just not the correct one to use because I kept missing the head over and over again, making me not being a big fan of this fight, to be honest. I wouldn't call Erdtree Avatar hard, but she is without a doubt annoying to fight. Meteor was a tough boss to take seriously. I don't know why, but even though I love the imagination behind the design of this boss, I found it a bit funny looking, which made me not take the boss very seriously. And it was a mistake, because the deaths just kept piling up as I just tried to kill this boss by brute force instead of learning the fight. Meteor in reality has some very tough attacks to deal with, one where he flies around and charges over you that I found crazy hard to avoid, a massive AoE that occupies almost the entire arena, and if you stay on one of her sides, she might just one-shot you with her fingers. So on my next playthrough, I will make sure I will take Meteor very seriously, because she might look funny, but she is not an easy boss. After just talking about a funny looking boss at number 7, we have Goofy Orphan of Chaos on a horse, and yet again I made the same mistake of not taking this boss seriously. I do believe, however, that in future playthroughs this boss will become one of the easiest bosses in the game. But because I'm here to rank the bosses based on my first playthrough, the reality is that he wrecked me for about an hour. due to the strange way he moves and some delayed attacks, and also the fact that hitting this boss can be quite difficult, I had quite a hard time facing him. On his second phase, he doesn't change as much. He only gets a few AoEs through the floor that are quite easy to avoid. But I have to deal with the facts, and the facts say goofy orphan of Cos on a horse kicked my ass big time, so he gets number 7 in this ranking. There are many complaints online on the difficulty of the DLC, and I wouldn't be surprised if a few were because of this boss. The Dancing Lion was my first boss, and surely also to many other players, and when I entered the boss room with no Skidoo tree fragments and my level 150 character with tons of confidence on my skill and build, let's just say he humbled me extremely fast. With these stats, this boss will pretty much kill you in 2 hits, and since this boss spams attacks like a machine gun, the learning curve was long as hell because I barely could stay alive for more than 30 seconds. Besides the insane damage, this is also the only boss I can remember having 4 different phases. They really went all in with this boss to make sure everyone knew this DLC means business. Something I feel I should mention also is the camera in this fight goes bonkers very easily. If you get cornered with this boss, you might as well put the controller down because you will die for not being able to see anything of what is going on. The Dancing Lion is a brutal beginning for this DLC, one that you surely won't forget. Of all the bosses in this list, I feel Commander Gaius is the one I learned the least to fight. I don't even know how you're supposed to dodge that initial charge. In fact, I hate that attack so much that when I entered the boss room, I started running to the left behind the wall, so I just didn't have to deal with it. Besides the charge, he also has this extremely annoying combo that I have no idea how to fully dodge and ended up killing me over and over again. When I finally beat Commander Gaius, I felt it was luck more than anything, and I didn't even celebrate it. It was just a sense of relief. I honestly am not looking forward on meeting this guy again. Bale the Dread is one kick-ass boss that absolutely no player will forget. The insane build for the boss makes us think we are about to face the hardest dragon boss ever made, and the difficulty of the fight did not disappoint. Unlike Placido Sax, where you can attack any part of this body, Bale feels more like Midir, where you're supposed to hit the head, but that is of course easier said than done. Because even though this is an extremely large boss, he moves quite fast and can cut distances in a blink of an eye. You never feel that you're safe to heal against this behemoth of a boss. In the second phase, we see one of the coolest boss transitions ever, as he gains giant wings and flies around the arena, throwing fire at you and descending into a massive explosion, only for a few seconds later being followed by him flying again and burn the entire arena with all the style in the world. I mean, they really went all in with a spectacle on this fight. Bale is not just memorable for his difficulty, he's one hell of a cool boss fight, and he also gave us Egon, and god do I love his lines. The same way that the Dancing Lion can be your first boss, so can Relana. And if this is your first boss, well, you just chose yourself a world of pain, because she has got never-ending combos that will wipe out your health bar in seconds. In a very poor decision from my end, I decided to also beat this boss without the Skidoo tree fragments, and if you're seeing this ranking and haven't faced her yet, do not, I beg you, do not try this, or you might get yourself stuck for hours on end with this boss like I did. The main reason why I didn't surrender to using the fragments was because this is actually one of my favorite fights in the DLC. It reminds me a lot of a certain boss in Dark Souls 3 by the name of Pontiff Suliban, except this is a harder version of him. Besides the never-ending combos, Relana also has lots of magic spells that can do massive damage or being very hard to deal with. And in second phase she takes all these things into another level by buffing her weapon and doing some massive AoEs that will cover the entire arena. Relana is quite a memorable boss and a very difficult one, very deserving of the number 3 spot. Mesmer, being the cover of the game, was expected to be one of the hardest bosses in this DLC, so the fact I'm placing him at number 2 means he fulfilled that mission. This is a boss that has it all. Massive AoEs? Check. Fast attacks? Check. Delayed attacks? Check. Insane combos? Check. Crazy damage? Check. One-shot grab? Check. And an insane second phase? Check, check, check. Mesmer was the boss that made me surrender on using the Erdtree fragments, because after being stuck on him for like 2 hours, I felt like either I do it or I will spend here all day. Mesmer did not disappoint on the difficulty and also did not disappoint on the quality. Eventually I will do a boss ranking on my favorite bosses from the DLC, and let's just say he's gonna rank pretty high on the list. 99.9% of everyone's boss ranking for this DLC will place Prime Radam as the hardest boss, because this boss, my friends, isn't just the hardest one on the DLC, he is the hardest boss in the entirety of Elden Ring, which means he might just be the hardest boss from software as ever made. First phase of Radam is hard but doable, but second phase is the most insane fight they have ever done, because Miquella joins the fight, and now every time Radam attacks, it is followed by spells, making it crazy hard to avoid being hit and also to see what is coming next. Adding to that, this boss' health bar seems to last forever, and the damage he will do to you is off the charts. The boss does have a third phase, but it's really just a reminder of the comet attack from his fight from the normal game. Nothing else changes, at least I didn't notice anything new. So is Radam the hardest boss in From Software history? Well, after beating him, I went to check other people fighting him, and apparently you can parry him in all phases, which is something I will definitely try before making my final judgment. But for my first playthrough, I will say yes, this is the hardest boss I have ever faced in my entire years of gaming. Now, do I love or hate this boss? I guess you will have to see my top 10 boss ranking to find out. As for this list, my friends, this is the end. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I see you guys on the next video, which will be my review of the DLC. Stay well, everyone.